What began as a straightforward family gathering, a joyful lunch to honor Ethan's 18th birthday, spiraled into an unforeseen whirlwind of emotions. Once again, Thomas was lost in the depths of his work, oblivious to the world around him. As he secluded himself in his home office, I glided through the kitchen, washing dishes and retrieving warm pies from the oven, their intoxicating aroma enveloping the space. I found myself lost in thoughts of a day brimming with joy, radiant light, and the comforting embrace of loved ones. Yet, beneath it all, I found myself questioning, when did the flawless facade of our existence begin to fracture? Like cherished relics of the past, everything felt precariously close to unraveling with the slightest brush of longing. To the outside world, we embodied the ideal family, residing in a charming suburban home with a pristine lawn, our children always appearing cheerful and impeccably dressed. Yet, I alone held the secret within my heart. Only I perceived the shadows that had silently infiltrated this seemingly cozy and secure realm. Thomas was perpetually occupied, forever chasing the next task that demanded his attention. Yet somehow, he always felt just out of reach. He glided through existence like a whisper, slipping away into the tumult of conference calls and ceaseless meetings. And I found myself engulfed in a profound, aching solitude. That day at the beach, the sun blazed against my skin. Yet rather than igniting a spark within me, I was engulfed by an unsettling emptiness. Caleb and I were tossing a football along the shoreline, our laughter mingling with the waves as we unearthed the echoes of our innocent past. Each throw igniting a spark of something deeper, something we dared not acknowledge. In that fleeting moment, I averted my gaze. And then, he was there, his touch soft and lingering as he spread the sunscreen across my back. It was a gesture that seemed so pure, yet it carried an undercurrent of longing, a tenderness that hinted at something deeper, something that dared to tread where it shouldn't. Yet, as the afternoon unfolded, an undeniable intensity clung to that moment, haunting my thoughts and refusing to dissolve into the past. It struck me how much time had passed since I had felt the warmth of a gentle touch. Even in the most subtle forms, Thomas had stolen that warmth from my life long ago, leaving only the chill of polite nods and conversations that felt like echoes in an empty room. In the quietest moments, Caleb began to weave himself into the empty corners of his father's absence, igniting a warmth that had long been extinguished. His effortless words and gentle kindness wrapped around me, awakening a sense of being truly noticed that had long been dormant. And that filled me with a deep sense of dread. The beach picnic I had meticulously orchestrated faded into a haze of overwhelming feelings. As we lingered on the sand, the day softly surrendered to twilight, the laughter and joy of other families gradually receding into a distant echo. It was as if I was being swept away from all that I knew, drawn into the depths of uncharted emotions, where the allure of the unknown beckoned me closer. The silence that enveloped us deepened, laden with unspoken longings, and with each passing moment, I confronted a reality I had long sought to escape. The flicker of what I once felt for Thomas had faded into oblivion. When he finally returned that night, weary and emotionally distant as ever, he scarcely acknowledged my presence. He remained oblivious to the significance of the day, failing to acknowledge that his son was crossing the threshold into adulthood. I lingered at the kitchen table, a profound sense of longing enveloping me. Even as he wandered through the familiar spaces of our home, I felt like I had faded into the background, unseen and unheard. As I stood before his vacant desk that night, a torrent of long-buried memories surged within me, bringing forth the shadowy remnants of who I once was. A deep frustration coursed through me, a burning resentment for allowing everything to unravel like this. What have I transformed into? The proud, confident woman I once was feels like a distant memory, a fleeting shadow of what used to be. In that void, a profound longing surged within me, a yearning to be noticed once more, to experience significance, to truly count. Later that night, as I sat quietly on the couch, I felt Ethan's gaze lingering on me, a silent intensity that stirred something deep within. His gaze held a weight, a longing that stirred something deep within me, and in that instant, my heart raced with a fervor I thought I had long forgotten. His youthful, radiant gaze stirred within me a longing for the dreams and faith I had once cherished but now felt distant. In that fleeting moment, the world around me transformed entirely. As his hand grazed my back once more, a mere caress, I sensed a long-buried part of me begin to unravel. I convinced myself it meant nothing. Merely a fleeting, innocent encounter. As the day slipped away and the sky embraced gentle hues of pink and gold, I found myself unable to shake the memories that lingered in my mind. Each look, each seemingly casual brush of skin, held a significance that we both felt but were too afraid to acknowledge. As I lingered in the passenger seat on our journey home, my gaze drifted to the infinite highway ahead, the ocean's shimmering reflection lingering in the rearview mirror, a bittersweet reminder of what once was. Caleb sat beside me, lost in his own world with earbuds nestled in his ears. His head rested softly against the window, lost in a world of longing and unspoken yearnings. In that fleeting instant, he appeared transformed, no longer the boy I had nurtured, but a young man adrift in the tumultuous space between youth and maturity. The revelation washed over me, overwhelming and intoxicating. I felt him slipping away from me. In an instant, he would vanish, embarking on a journey to college or pursuing his own path, leaving behind the familiar embrace of home. And yet, a part of me questioned whether this was precisely the turning point we needed. Before the intensity spiraled beyond our control, as these thoughts danced in my mind, I recalled the moments when he was little. His small hand nestled in mine, his laughter a radiant and untroubled melody. In those days, existence seemed uncomplicated, brimming with meaning. As we finally arrived in the driveway, the house stood before us, unchanged and pristine, each blade of grass meticulously arranged, every window gleaming with an almost haunting clarity. Yet it resonated with a chilling emptiness, devoid of warmth, a stunning exterior concealing an emptiness within. That night, the stillness in the house felt suffocating, heavy with unspoken longings. Thomas found himself secluded in his office, the soft whispers of a conference call seeping gently through the walls. A reminder of the world outside that felt both distant and tantalizing. I found myself at the kitchen table once more, my fingers clenching a mug of coffee that remained untouched, a silent witness to the turmoil within me. I was lost in my thoughts when Caleb appeared, suddenly right beside me, his presence igniting a rush of feelings I had long buried. His presence lingered in the air, a quiet force that stirred something deep within, awakening feelings that were meant to remain hidden. In silence, he positioned himself opposite me, his gaze intensely fixed on my own. It was the kind of look that ignited a fire within me, stirring emotions I couldn't quite articulate, or perhaps simply chose to ignore. The silence of the house enveloped me, a heavy stillness that stirred something deep within. The atmosphere surrounding us pulsed with unvoiced emotions, dense and overwhelming. It was hard to discern whether it was the aching solitude or the long history of unacknowledged feelings that stirred within me. Yet, when his fingers lightly grazed mine as I reached for the sugar, I found myself lingering, unable to withdraw. I could have, yet I chose not to. I allowed the moment to linger, stretching it beyond its natural bounds. And in that quietude, an unspoken connection surged between us, fraught with peril. The weekend arrived, and the warmth enveloped the suburbs, wrapping everything in a thick, sultry embrace. Thomas was away on another business trip, leaving the house shrouded in an even deeper sense of solitude than before. A strange pull urged me to make that suggestion. Perhaps I was yearning for a breath of fresh air, to break free from the confines that felt increasingly suffocating with each passing moment. But I turned to Ethan, my heart racing, and asked if he felt the pull to return to the beach, our secret haven. He consented with an unspoken longing. The journey carried a weight this time, a deeper intensity. Caleb wore his headphones, his eyes drifting into the distance, lost in a world of unspoken yearnings. I caught myself stealing glances at him, my heart racing as I pondered the thoughts hidden behind his gaze. Did he sense the same longing within him? This unspoken tension enveloped us, a force we couldn't identify yet found ourselves unable to evade. As we stepped onto the shore, a sense of solitude enveloped us, the beach stretching out before us, almost untouched. The early morning breeze whispered secrets of the ocean, and for a fleeting moment, I could almost convince myself that all was right in the world once more. We spread the towels next to each other, reminiscent of that unforgettable moment we shared before. I lay back on the sun-kissed sand, surrendering to the gentle whispers of the waves, seeking solace in their rhythmic embrace. Yet, the intensity of his stare lingered, heavy and undeniable. And deep within, I sensed it was just a matter of moments before the delicate balance we were both navigating would shatter entirely. I attempted to cast aside the tumultuous thoughts, seeking solace in the rhythmic crash of the waves and the gentle embrace of the sun. Yet the tempest within me raged on, unyielding. As I slowly opened my eyes, I found Caleb perched at the edge of the towel, his knees pulled close, lost in thought as he gazed out over the shimmering water. His profile seemed to carry a weight of untold stories, more defined and striking in the soft embrace of the golden morning light. I rose gradually, tenderly sweeping the grains from my skin. My heart raced with a fervor that rivaled the tumultuous roar of the crashing waves. I urged myself to utter a word, any word, to shatter the weighty stillness enveloping us. Yet the words lingered, trapped within me. It was as if the universe had condensed into this secluded stretch of sand, capturing an exquisite moment that defied all reason between us. Then, without even glancing away, Caleb whispered, his voice barely above a breath, as if he feared the power of his own words. Do you ever sense that you're fading away, lost in the shadows of your own longing? I found myself caught in a moment of uncertainty, wondering if the question was directed at me or if he was merely allowing his thoughts to wander into the open air. Yet, I was intimately familiar with that sensation. Every time I responded, my voice trembled, barely escaping my lips, and in that moment, a hidden part of me began to awaken. In that moment, he faced me, our gazes intertwining with an intensity that stirred something deep within. In those moments, I glimpsed the shadows of all I had hidden away for ages: solitude, yearning, and the profound, desperate hunger to truly experience life once more. The sun hung brightly in the sky as I instinctively reached for the suntan lotion. Lost in a moment that felt both familiar and thrilling, my fingers quivered with a mix of anticipation and longing as I extended it towards him. Would you be able to? I inquired, my voice fading into a whisper. He paused, caught in a moment of longing, as his fingers grazed against mine while he reached for the bottle. An undeniable spark ignited between us, sending shivers down my spine. I reclined on the towel, my heart pounding fiercely within my chest. His hands moved with a tenderness that felt almost hesitant at first. His fingers glided over my shoulders, a gentle caress that felt both hesitant and charged, as if he feared breaching an unspoken boundary. And yet, with each fleeting moment, his hands became more resolute, infused with a newfound confidence. I shut my eyes, attempting to convince myself it was insignificant, merely a simple act of kindness, something pure and untainted. Yet, my body turned against me. A tremor coursed through my being, even under the blazing sun, and I sensed he experienced it as well. He lingered for a heartbeat, his hands hovering tantalizingly close to the gentle arch of my back. Caught in a moment of uncertainty, a breath away from crossing an unspoken line. In that moment, I had the power to halt him. I ought to have. Yet, in a voice that trembled with unspoken longing, I softly murmured, "It's okay." Those two words carried a weight that eclipsed anything I had ever uttered. And in that instant, an undeniable spark ignited between us. His hands descended with a deliberate slowness, each caress transforming from mere innocence into something charged with longing. My heart raced, urging me to resist, to create distance between us. Yet my heart, that treacherous and solitary companion, yearned desperately to cling to a warmth that had eluded me for far too long. I convinced myself it was merely the sunlight, merely the weight of the past few days pressing down on me. Yet, beneath the surface, I was acutely aware of the reality that lingered within me. As I finally opened my eyes and gazed up at him, I saw a blend of bewilderment and an intense, unfiltered emotion that stirred something deep within me. As our gazes intertwined, a hush enveloped us, as if time itself had paused, leaving only the electric tension between us in its wake. We were two souls caught in a tempest, yearning for a spark, a fleeting touch that could awaken the depths of our hearts once more. And that filled me with a deeper fear than anything else could. The journey home stretched endlessly, each moment heavy with unspoken longing. Despite the quiet roads and the brief distance ahead, silence enveloped us, heavy with unspoken words. The atmosphere surrounding us pulsed with unspoken truths, and each rotation of the wheels felt like a reminder of the burden of our past, pressing down with an intensity that was almost unbearable. As we arrived in the driveway, the house seemed to exude an icy detachment, more unwelcoming than I had ever remembered. The blinds were tightly shut, allowing only the faintest whispers of the late afternoon sun to slip through the edges, casting a delicate glow in the dim room. It was as if I had returned to the confines of a cage I had crafted with my own hands, one of hidden depths and unspoken longing. Thomas had not yet returned. In the stillness of the kitchen, my fingers grazed the cool marble counter, my gaze lost in the distance, as if the secrets of my heart were hidden just beyond the horizon, yearning to be uncovered. Caleb glided through the house, an unspoken tension hanging in the air long after he slipped away down the hallway. Though his presence eluded my sight, his thoughts intertwined with mine, chaotic and yearning, teetering on the edge of boundaries we dared not breach. That night, rest eluded me. I lay in bed, gazing at the ceiling, consumed by the memory of his touch and the intensity of his gaze, as if I were the sole being in existence who held significance for him. It felt like a lifetime since someone had gazed at me with such intensity. I convinced myself it meant nothing at all. A fleeting instant, emerging from the depths of prolonged solitude and unacknowledged yearning. Yet, with each utterance of that falsehood, a deep yearning stirred within me, longing for a truth that felt just out of reach. The days that followed were enveloped in an unspoken, electric anticipation. Caleb glided through the house, a silent presence, yet his gaze remained locked on me, filled with an intensity that stirred something deep within. As I prepared the meal, his presence lingered in the air, stirring something deep within me. As I folded the laundry, I felt his eyes on me from the shadows of the hallway, a silent tension hanging in the air. His silence spoke volumes, a heavy weight of unspoken truths lingering between them. One evening, as I lounged in the living room, aimlessly scrolling through channels, an electric sensation coursed through me, signaling his presence behind me before I even dared to turn my head. The room enveloped me in a warmth that was almost intoxicating, the air thick with unspoken tension. I ought to have urged him to depart, to retreat upstairs and erase every trace of this moment from his memory. Yet, I refrained. I allowed the silence to deepen between us, allow the warmth to linger within my heart. And that was the moment everything changed. His breath brushed against my neck, a tantalizing whisper that caught me off guard, pulling me into a moment I hadn't anticipated. My body tightened, each nerve tingling with a sense of caution and an intoxicating thrill. I murmured, my voice laced with urgency, I must escape this moment. Yet, just as I was about to inhale again, I felt the soft caress of his lips on my cheek. It was a whisper of a kiss, a delicate brush of lips. Yet it shattered the very foundations of what was known. In an instant, I found myself facing him, and our lips collided in a moment charged with unspoken longing. It felt so deeply, profoundly wrong. Yet, it was as if I emerged from a haze, awakening to a world that had long been shrouded in shadows. After an eternity of numbness, I finally felt alive again. Each kiss dismantled the barriers I had carefully constructed around my heart. Each fleeting moment was a lifetime of suppressed longings awakening from their hidden depths. In those perilous, ephemeral instants, all else faded away from my mind. Thomas slipped from my memory. I lost sight of the person I was meant to become. All I felt was an overwhelming urge to hold onto the moment, to savor every fleeting second. The days that followed merged into a fog of yearning and remorse. Each shadowed nook of the house whispered secrets of a past I longed to explore yet feared to confront. Each look from Caleb held an unspoken longing that left me breathless, a question lingering in the air that I was too afraid to confront. And still, I found myself drawn back in. On those rare mornings when Thomas was home, his presence lingered in the air, a bittersweet reminder of what could be, rather than a source of solace. He would hastily gulp down his morning coffee, offer a fleeting smile that barely touched his eyes, and slip out the door before the dawn had fully embraced the day. One morning, unexpectedly, he took my breath away. He entered the kitchen as I spread butter on my toast, gently kissing my cheek, and in that brief moment, it was as if the tender glow of spring had broken through the chill of a lingering winter. Yet, in an instant, he vanished from my life. The sound of his footsteps dwindling as he ascended the stairs, the front door echoing its finality with a resounding slam. And just like that, the house returned to its haunting, echoing stillness. In the stillness of the moment, Caleb emerged, his presence almost ethereal as he glided into the kitchen. He lingered by the window, the golden rays of sunlight weaving intricate patterns of light and shadow across his features. Stirring something deep within him, his gaze locked onto mine, and within it, I sensed an unspoken yearning that mirrored my own. What unfolds next? I felt the weight of my decision, the bittersweet ache of finality pressing against my heart as I prepared to speak the words that would change everything. That the connection we shared was a fleeting error, a momentary lapse in judgment, a fleeting lapse that we both craved to erase from our memories. Yet my heart remained defiant, unwilling to heed the whispers of reason. The oppressive summer heat thickened, wrapping around me like a secret longing with every day that slipped by. Thomas departed once more on a business trip, and the house enveloped me in a heavy silence, amplifying the ache of his absence. That's when I sensed it once more, that intoxicating pull to break free. Before I could fully grasp the weight of my words, I found myself yearning to return to the beach, a place where hidden longings stirred within me. Caleb remained silent, the unspoken questions lingering in the air between them. He simply nodded, took hold of his keys, and we slipped away into the night. The drive was silent, yet it carried an undercurrent of tension, a whisper of unspoken yearnings that lingered in the air. A palpable tension lingered just below the surface, heavy and inescapable. As we stepped onto the shore, a sense of solitude enveloped us. The beach stretching out before us, nearly untouched. The expansive shoreline, enveloped in a gentle, warm light, beckons with a sense of longing and hidden yearnings. We laid out our towels as we had in the past, yet this time the air was thick with unspoken tension, devoid of the playful laughter and lighthearted conversation that once filled the space. I reclined, shutting my eyes to the harsh glare of the sun, attempting to convince myself that I could still embrace a sense of normalcy. Even as my heart raced wildly with each passing moment he lingered so near. Yet, it washed over me once more. His presence enveloped me, his gaze resting on me like an unseen caress, igniting a fire within that I could sense in every fiber of my being. As I shifted my gaze, our eyes locked in a moment charged with unspoken longing. Silence enveloped us, heavy with unspoken truths. His hand sought mine, fingertips grazing softly, igniting a spark that felt both thrilling and dangerous. And just as I had in the past, I remained close, unable to distance myself. I ought to have. Yet, I intertwined my fingers with his, applying a soft pressure that forged an unspoken bond between us. We had ventured too deep into the shadows of our hearts. As the sun descended, time felt suspended, casting the sky in tender hues of orange and pink, evoking a sense of longing and unspoken yearnings. The ocean breeze felt cooler now, yet the intensity of our connection remained, thick and inescapable. For a moment, silence enveloped us, heavy with unspoken feelings. We lingered in that moment, side by side, our fingers intertwined, as the waves inched ever closer, brushing against our feet. I was acutely aware that this moment was fleeting. In the depths of our connection, a delicate and perilous thread wove itself between us, thriving solely in these fleeting instances, on this secluded stretch of sand, far removed from the harshness of reality. Before long, we would have to part ways, confront the choices we made. Yet, in this moment, we allow the quiet to weave our souls into one. As we gathered our things and made our way to the car, the journey back felt laden with unspoken feelings, a weight that lingered in the air. Silence enveloped us, each moment lingering like a heavy secret, burdened by the unspoken truths that hung between us. As we rolled into the driveway, the house stood there, unchanged, a familiar facade that masked the tempest of feelings stirring within me. Utterly motionless, achingly frigid, and that's when the longing took root within me. I had ventured into a realm I could never escape, and despite my efforts to dismiss it as a momentary lapse, The reality pulsed just beneath the surface of my being. That night, as I lay in bed, the ceiling above me felt like a distant dream, an unreachable expanse that echoed the depths of my longing. I could hear Thomas's voice drifting from his office downstairs, lost in the depths of yet another late-night call, completely unaware of the quiet turmoil unraveling within the walls of his own sanctuary. My heart ached, yearning for release, for a chance to turn back the clock and undo every misstep that haunted me. But then I remembered Ethan's gaze, how it held me with a sense of significance, as if I was still deserving of affection. And that thought shattered me anew. Days drifted by, and existence fell into an unsettling, agonizing cadence. Thomas returned from his trip, yet his presence lingered like a haunting shadow, stirring emotions long buried within the walls of the house. He moved through life, sharing meals, attending to work, drifting into sleep, all the while remaining blind to my presence. With each fleeting glance he cast my way, and every silent departure he made, the barriers that separated us soared ever higher. There were moments when I felt his gaze lingering on me from the other side of the room. A silent acknowledgement of something unspoken and electric. His glances lingered, weighted with unspoken truths and a yearning that ignited the air between them. And I let him continue. I ought to have distanced myself from him. I ought to have reinforced those barriers and secured every entrance that lay beyond them. Yet, I refrained, for in a shattered corner of my soul, the thought of losing the last flicker of warmth I clung to was unbearable. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon in a swirl of purple and gold, I found myself by the window, gazing out at a landscape that once symbolized liberation but now served as a haunting reminder of every decision I longed to change. Caleb approached, his presence a whisper against the surface of the glass, a fleeting shadow of what could be. "Are you feeling all right?" he inquired softly. I took a deep breath, my voice trembling as I replied, "I'm not sure I remember what it feels like to be truly okay anymore." His hand reached for mine once more, and this time, I surrendered without a moment's thought. In that delicate, waning glow, we found ourselves entwined, two souls ensnared in a tempest, both unaware of the path to safety. And whether it was a blessing or a curse, I understood that this moment would linger in my soul for eternity.